So after it worked so well for Skylar, I had to figure out why did this machine work versus any other machine, because we had tried several. And here's what I determined. If that's a typical cell in the human body, there's a thing that's called an aquaporin, which is a port for getting water into the system. The inside of the cell is positive and the outside of the cell is negative. We made that shape to be hexagonal as a demonstration, and so what you end up with is tap water, well water, ocean water, lake water right now is pentagonally shaped, and it is clustered at about 16 to 25 units. People will argue that it is, and some will say that it isn't. But what happens is, with it having a positive charge, all that this cell will do is stick to the negative charge of the cell membrane. At which point, when the cell starts to dehydrate, it will draw water in through the wicking concept and osmosis. Well, what the Enagic machine does is it runs it through a pre-filter, and then one of the places that it can, this type of water still occurs is after a lightning strike in like lakes. There's some demonstration that it does exist with glaciers high in the Himalayas, things like that, but for the most part it's on fresh water that's been struck by lightning. So I've put a little zigzag there because that lightning strike is what goes on in the 7 plates. When the 7 plates are done with it, it spits out water that has been restructured. Now, as this water is fractured into smaller molecules that are approximately 6 units, and there's a negative charge. Well, that negative charge is going to be attracted to the positive charge inside the cell, and it is going to go right straight in to the hole that it fits. And if you check on Wikipedia and discuss aquaporins, it's going to say that it is immune to charges and it won't pass through. So what that ends up doing is it leaves a charge energizing the cell wall. Now, there's a lot of current research with ionic foot baths, MG33 Pro tensegrity units, that they want to get this cell wall to be about 120 millivolts. As you get older, you lose that charge. If you're sick, that may go as low as 80, and what we found is patients that have cancer, diabetes, something like that, it can be 50 or less. So as these charges hang up on these cells, it gives the cell more energy. Well, as you go, this could be per se an 8.5. Well, if you add an extra charge in there and you make that cluster a 5, that's kind of where you get your 9.0, and your 9.5 means that it's broken down even further and a little bit smaller so that you get really good hydration. The reason that that's important is your cell pulses. When your heart beats, that actually sends a pulse, and it causes your cells to expand and contract. It's called cellular respiration, and it's the premise of MRI technology. Your cell is open, pops open, click, closes down, click, 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 and the computer takes a picture, generates an image, and that's how you get your soft tissue MRIs. Well, what's going on here is when it collapses, it's forcing out CO2 and toxins. When it opens up, it creates a negative drag to allow O2 and nutrition to come in, out, in. And so that's your cellular respiration. Now, what makes this even more important is the simple fact that the #1 component of your blood, for instance, in the oxygen transport is known as hemoglobin. That is iron. Well, any type of iron in the presence of an acid, which is an oxidizer, will lead to rust. So, in our diet today, where we have Cokes, teas, juices, coffees, everything's acidic, that binds up a high level of oxidative rust in the tissues. In the presence of an alkaline system, there is an antioxidant component, which is why oxidizer, that restores that metal to normal. So therefore you get an improved transport of oxygen and nutrition in and out of the cells. Yeah, there we go. So the reason that this becomes more and more important is we don't actually have a lot of high ORP foods. ORP stands for oxidative reduction potential. What makes this particular unit different and worked so well for Skylar, like I said, I tried, she'd been on pH balanced alkaline water for years. What really hit the key was as this ORP breaks down, you can get an ORP that's as high as negative 800. That is the mystery and the key to all of this. The alkaline antioxidant properties of this water are 8 times higher than anywhere else in nature. So if you have a highly damaged system due to acidic conditions, diabetes, hyperketoacidosis, fibromyalgia, chronic lactic acidosis, RA, how it has uric acid crystals, all these things are associated with that acidic environment. This is simply the fastest way to change that. There's a book called Killing Cancer, Not Patients. Not People, whichever. And there's a really good section in that book, it's chapter 6, I believe. He states that alkaline restructured water has shown significant benefits, and I think the top of the chapter is it may actually save your life. And he specifically states, out of all the things that he's looked at, all the machines, that the Enagic SD501 has the highest consistent output for the high antioxidant water. You can go from 2.5 to 11.5. The reason that this unit is so good is electrolysis, which is the process by which this occurs. It is not dumping any chemicals into the water to change your drinking water range. It does use it for the 2.5, it does use it for the 11.5, but not the drinking waters. Electrolysis is driven by a combination of watts voltage plus surface area of the plates. Therefore, if you have the highest wattage with the biggest plates, you get the highest ORP. And somebody put out some alkaline water products or some test sheet, and I said, it's simple. Let's look at the power supply. He says, well, do you want to see what's compared? And I said, no. And so we went down through the list. You look, and it says it's either a transformer, and they'll complain saying, oh, that's old technology. That right there is what qualifies it as a medical grade device, first and foremost. Second, the switch mode power supply ramps up the wattage and drops down, ramps up and drops down, ramps up and drops down. A transformer just bumps it up, and that's where it's at. So you get a steady rate production. Next thing you look for is what's got the highest wattage. So if it has a transformer, and it has 110 watts or 230 watts, which is higher? The 230. So a 230 watt power supply is higher than a 250 watt switch mode power supply. Why? Because it's only 250 part of the time. So if it's a 230 watt power supply steady current, it has to have a higher quality metal and a higher volume of metal, or those plates will erode and break down. The Enagic machine comes with a 5-year warranty. If you're going to have a problem with it, you're going to have a problem with it within 5 years. A lot of these other companies say, oh, it's a lifetime warranty. Yeah, from a company that's 5 years old. And so what you want is the best possible bang for your buck. And again, that independent author wrote, it's the SD501. If you want to improve your chances of surviving cancer, of saving your life, you want the Enagic SD501. I didn't write that. He did. I agreed with him because great minds think alike. But that's the biggest difference in why the machine worked for Skylar, whereas all the other machines did not. Any questions?